In this video, we're going to be talking about some geography basics, just the bottom line of things that we need to be able to move forward with. Most people, when they think about geography, they think about where things are at, where cities and countries and roads and things like that, mountains are at. And this is one small part of geography. Knowing where things are at is crucial to be able to really dig into the next layer of geography. And to talk about that next level of geography, we really need to talk about the etymology of the word geography itself. It comes from the Greek words gi. Gi just means earth. You might have heard of like Mother Gaia, that is the Greek goddess of the earth. And graphia. Graphia just means writing. You probably already kind of knew this. Think about things like graffiti. And so geography really is the discipline of writing about the earth. It studies everything that's on the earth. People, animals, plants, the atmosphere, climate, and on and on. And it also looks at how all these things interact. So we have to look at things like businesses and their interaction with governments, things moving around the earth, shipping goods, people migrating, and of course the environment that sits on the earth and all the changes that have been happening in it, both recently and through the millennia. And I want to make sure that we're clear. Don't confuse geography with geology. Geology is really the study of the solid earth, so the crust and the mantle and the core. It studies things like plate tectonics and earthquakes and rocks. That being said, though, geology is pretty important to geographers. It determines the landscape and what can grow there. Indeed, many different academic disciplines are important to the discipline of geography. Geography is a discipline that we call holistic. And when we say holistic, we just mean the whole, even though it's spelled a little funny. And so geography studies the entire system that the earth includes, or that sits on the earth, all the people and things and where they are, but how they connect. So geographers need to know botany, the study of plants, and zoology, the study of animals. They need to know meteorology, which is the study of climate and weather. Sociology, so they can actually understand the human societies they're looking at. History, and we'll be doing a decent amount of history, a little bit, not the whole focus, but there is going to definitely be some history in this course. Economics, political science, all these different disciplines come together inside of geography. Again, it's holistic. It pulls on all the different things that study things on this earth. And so when we look at different areas on the globe, different regions, this is World Regional Geography, we will be taking this holistic approach. So within one region, we're going to be looking at the government of that region, the history of that region, the different cultures that exist there, the different religions and the different languages, as well as current events. As a matter of fact, a good chunk of this course is going to be focusing on current events around the globe. By the time we're done, you should not just have a feel of what the different cultures of the world are like and what the different regions of the world are like. You should have a decent feel for what's happening in the world right now. And just to try to clarify this holism idea, or the idea of something being holistic, again, looking at all the different parts of something, a good way to understand is to understand the opposite of holism, reductionism, which reduces things down to their individual parts. You can think about this like doctors that specialize versus general practitioners. So a podiatrist that specializes in feet, or an oncologist who specializes in cancer. Those would all be reductionist approaches. Take one part of the human, really focus on it. And that is a worthwhile pursuit. But the general practitioner, the one that simply usually you will be seeing when you go to get a checkup, they've been trained to look at all the different pieces and try to put all those pieces together. Here in this class, we're going to be holistic, not so much reductionist. There really are two different branches of geography. There's the physical geography, which really covers everything non-human in the world. So it covers topography. To be clear, topography is just the landscape, so that includes mountains and valleys and plains and rivers. Physical geographers also look at things like water currents and air currents. They deal with geology, rocks and minerals. They deal with meteorology, weather and climate. They deal with plants and animals. Over on the other side, we have cultural geography, and that really is everything human. So it's where languages are at and how those languages are changing and how they move around the world. It looks at things like political activity, creating countries and then maintaining them, the different types of governments that exist out in the world, treaties that are being made, how war is made. Cultural geographers also look at economics, so they look at what is made in different regions and how that is connected to other places, how trade works, food systems, and different types of cuisine. A term that's going to come up pretty often in this course is demographics. When we're talking about demographics, we are talking about specific subsets of people. So this could be age groups. The 65 and over age group is a specific demographic. It could be religious groups, ethnic groups, language groups. Demographics could be based on income and wealth, and so we often might have heard the term the 1%. That is a specific demographic, the richest 1% of our society. Gender groups is another common demographical lens. There are 5 themes of geography, and the first 2 on here you're really going to have to know. Location and place are going to be crucial throughout this course. As a matter of fact, most of the questions you answer are going to be dealing with location and place. So first I just want to break down location real quick. Location is grouped into 2 different types, or we have 2 different types of locations, absolute and relative. Now, often people make the mistake of just hearing those words and thinking absolute is more precise and relative is less precise. That's not the case. Absolute location is location that's based on some type of artificial system, some type of human-created system. So things like your address, that is an absolute location. Somebody lives at 211 Orange Avenue. That is absolute. That's always going to be there. It doesn't matter what changes around them. A McDonald's can go up next door, or more houses can be built or more houses can be torn down. No matter what, they're at 211 Orange. Or when we think about things being like 30 degrees north by 40 degrees west, this is another form of absolute location. Relative location, and this is the one that we're going to be using most of the time throughout this course, relative location is where something is in comparison to the things around it. So, for example, if I wanted to describe where the relative location of Norfolk is, it is in northeast Nebraska. It is southwest of Sioux City, northwest of Omaha and Lincoln, and northeast of Grand Island, south of Yankton. So if you live at a house and you can tell people that you are 4 doors down from the corner store, and then that corner store gets replaced with a Burger King, your relative location just changed. You have to re-describe that. And again, I want to make sure that this is really clear. One is not more precise than the other. Somebody's address, that's a big plot of land. But if I say that a cup of coffee sitting on a desk on the very edge of the back right corner, that's a lot more precise. So be aware that absolute doesn't mean more precise. It just means it's on an artificial system and it doesn't change. And relative location can be as precise as absolute, but it really is about what's around it. And so I'm going to give you a chance once again to get some extra credit by responding to a couple questions. The first one that you're going to answer, and you're going to want to put both of these in the same email, so don't send this too fast. The first one that you're going to answer is I want you to describe to me the relative location of Nebraska. What are we south of? What are we north of? What are we west of? What are we east of? And you don't want to say something like Kansas is to the south of Nebraska. That's telling me the relative location of Kansas. You would want to tell me that Nebraska is north of Kansas. All right, so you have that first thing that you're going to be sending to me. I want to move on to place now. Now, place is just about describing the characteristics of any specific region or area that you may be in or that you're talking about. So if I was to describe the place of California's Central Valley, that's where I come from, is the Central Valley of California. It's pretty hot most of the time. It is primarily agriculture in its economy. However, it does have 5 or 6 fairly large cities. It is a fairly even mix between liberal and conservative folks. The main crops that we grow there are nuts and some fruits. It has a great music scene. If anybody was into people like Johnny Cash, Bakersfield, the Bakersfield music scene was really popping decades ago. And it's a fairly impoverished area. There's not a whole lot of money, which is fairly common in a lot of agricultural, especially densely populated agricultural economies. So when you're describing place, you want to describe all the physical and the cultural characteristics. You want to give every detail about that area you're describing. With that in mind, I want you to now add on to the first question, and I want you to send to me a description of the place of northeast Nebraska. What are the characteristics of our region? Excellent. So if you have those two, the relative location of Nebraska and the place of northeast Nebraska, just send them into my Canvas account to get your extra credit for this video, which is not going to happen all the time, but it's nice to start the semester with a few extra points. The last 3 of these are important. We're not going to come across them quite as often, but they are going to be rather important. Human-environment interactions. This is primarily just talking about human beings, how we shape the earth. So when you build a road somewhere that is a regular crossing point or is a regular migration route for deer, a lot of people are going to end up hitting deer. More deer are going to die off. That is human-environment interaction. When human beings make cities and lay down lots of roads and lay down lots of concrete, those cities actually warm up the area because all that concrete and asphalt just holds on to warmth. The deforestation of the Amazon, as we lose more and more of the Amazon forest, that's human-environment interaction. All right, movement and process. This really is about the movement of things or the movement of people and culture and goods across the world. It can refer to shipping. It can refer to demographic shifts. So, for example, in Japan right now, the population is getting a lot older and there's not a whole lot of young people in it. Their birth rate is so low. That demographic shift is process. We even see this in the formation of mountains. As mountains are slowly being pushed up, that is a process. Movement process, change. And finally, region. Regions are areas that share characteristics. So, for example, here in Norfolk, we are in the Corn Belt, where a region of the United States where a lot of corn is grown. We're also in the Midwest. That has a very specific regional culture. We're also often referred to as being part of the region that is called the West. This is the part of the world that essentially was rooted in European culture. All right, easy peasy. 2 different divisions or subdivisions of geography, physical and cultural. 5 different themes of geography, all of which you have to know. You need to be able to talk about these things in some depth.